What's your worst, my friend backstabbed me story? I had to go out of town for work for 6 weeks. It wasn't far enough that I couldn't come back every weekend. My girlfriend at the time was a closet psycho. It hadn't shown yet, but she was on a downward spiral. 2 solid days together, 5 days apart, weren't good enough for her. Anyway, my best friend had a lot of girlfriends, so I would go to him for advice, to vent, to keep it together, to have a buddy to talk to. He asked if he could talk to her about anything. I said, no, just give me advice. Fast forward to week 5. Girlfriend meltdown. She called me, saying she hated me, citing complaints I had about her to my best friend, but way amplified over what I had said. I told her how much I loved her. There's no way it could be my best friend. We'd been buddies for over a decade. We shared stories all the time. Somebody was messing with me. I confronted him. I've not said a thing to her, he said. He blamed it on my crazy ex. My girlfriend at the time confirmed it was his crazy ex. She had hacked his email and sent all the logs of my complaints out of context to my girlfriend because she was worried about our relationship. Okay, I can fix this. I'm a good person. It was obviously out of context. I tried to explain so much to her. My friend was upset about his crazy ex. She's messing with my relationship too, man, he said. He was with a different girl then. They had been together for over a year. They were having trouble, but he could pull through, I thought. I love her more than anything, ever, he said. I want to marry her, he said. I'm tired of dating. This girl is the one, he said. I still went to my friend for advice. He told me to relax. It would get better when I got back and concentrated on my work. I was naive. It wasn't working. She said she couldn't handle me being away all the time. 5 days at a time, I drove 5 hours home every weekend and 5 hours back to work. She said she was seeing somebody else to stay happy. Okay, hang out with somebody else, you're still mine. I asked my best friend, no way, man, she isn't. She can't give you a name, therefore she isn't. She's just messing with you. Stay strong. Fast forward, I got back. I dealt with her completely psycho attitude for a couple of weeks. She started to like me again. I was trying to do the right thing. I felt bad for leaving her, even though it wasn't that long. Anyway, there was no hack. There was no explanation. My best friend lied to my face. It was the guy she was seeing and doing substances with. My best friend lied to my girlfriend and me to get her upset and to dislike me so he could party with her while telling me he wanted to marry his current girlfriend and blaming all of my issues on one of his exes. His lies went on for weeks. I was upset, but he was still my best friend. I found out. I'm sorry, man. I'm just trying to keep distance from your girlfriend right now. Feelings got in the way 2 weeks ago, he said. Nothing happened, though. By the way, she cheated on you right before your birthday. This was where I should have cut it off, but I was naive. Me. No, I'm trying to do the right thing. I love this girl. I feel bad for how messed up she is, etc. She was a dropout, no job, hurting, but could definitely climb out if she tried. Him. How do you do it, man? How do you stay strong? He asked this a lot. I always explained that I wanted to do the right thing and that I loved this girl. I was stupid. I was dependent on the girl. I tried to spend as much time with her as possible. My best friend still talked about how he wanted to marry his girlfriend and how he told her everything that happened between him and my girlfriend. He wanted both of our lives to go back to normal, he said. Fast forward a few weeks. It was still rough. She was still treating me like crap, but it was getting better and better. I was honest about everything then. She said she was being honest too. She broke down. She loved me again. She told me that seeing him meant being intimate. He was lying to my face, saying he wanted to marry his girlfriend. He was cheating on his girlfriend with my girlfriend, and both were lying to me about it. I left town for 2 weeks. I was distant, broken. She got upset and we fought again. She had been with him the whole time, even when I was back. The whole time. He was my best friend. He said he wanted to help me, always offering help. He used everything I ever told him in confidence while asking for relationship advice to turn her against me for months. All the advice he gave me was designed to get her to dislike me more. Make dinner for her, man. I'll give you a recipe for an awesome meat sauce. Do it with red wine. She hated meat sauce from red wine. He was with her and doing substances with her while lying to my face. He was looking into my eyes and telling me how bad he felt and how to fix it. They both lied to me. Now they were both dependent on substances. My ex was massively in debt, lived at home with her parents, and they both worked awful retail jobs. But I'm still angry about it. My heart is pounding right now. I'd lost a lot of faith in humanity and my only unconditional trust that people wanted to be good together. Don't date a girl who's so insecure that she needs the attention of other guys at parties to be happy, but freaks out when you so much as glance at another girl, even if she's an old lady taking your order at a restaurant. These ain't loyal. Story 2. While freelancing in a sweet gig that came out of the blue, I found out that I would be working with Sean, a guy who was in my group at a former ad agency. Awesome, a friendly face. Sean was a geek. No one liked him, and as associate creative director, supervisor, I looked out for him. He seemed to try hard and didn't understand why everyone excluded him. During 2 rounds of layoffs, I went to bat for the guy and saved his job, promising to work with him. He was always busy, and soon after I moved on to a new job. So I looked forward to working with him some more and proving those mean jerks from our old agency wrong. While working this freelance job, I sensed something was wrong soon after it began. Sean had no ideas. None. He literally brought a blank pad in day after day. His excuses were that he was tired, the assignment confused him, etc. I was nervous, but I was stuck. Since we were on a team, I shared my ideas, or only ideas, with him. We had to present an hour after lunch. During lunch, I had to go to a doctor's appointment with my wife, who was seriously ill. On my way back to the office, the cab I was in had an accident. No one was hurt, but it totaled both cars. Further, I didn't feel comfortable leaving the cabbie, as he was foreign and spoke little English. The guy who hit us was ranting, so I stayed to give a statement to the police. I called Sean to explain and asked if he minded handling the meeting and relaying my situation. Then the prick presented my work, claimed it was all his, and they sent me home because Sean nailed it. Salt in the wound, it took 9 months to get paid for the time I did put in. All along, I tried to explain, but no one believed me. He copied my notes in his own writing and submitted them as proof. As far as they were concerned, I was riding this guy's coattails. I could have kicked him for a week without getting bored. 2 months later, he was caught when he tried it again. Dozens of his former coworkers called to rub my nose in it. Still think we're just picking on Sean? I learned that sometimes people are shunned because they deserve it. Story 3. My buddy introduced me to a lady friend of his at a party. I took an interest in her and asked my buddy if he was cool with me asking her out. He told me to go for it. She and I had what I thought was a great date. My buddy called me the next day to tell me that the lady wasn't interested and couldn't see a way to let me down gently, so she asked him to tell me to break all contact. About 2 months later, I had one too many drinks and started dialing various folks, and I decided to call the lady to ask her why she had blown me off. She said that my buddy had told her that I wasn't interested and that I wouldn't be calling her anymore. Anyway, I would find out later that my buddy had done what he did because he worked with her and had a huge crush on her. He knew he wouldn't ever be able to get together with her and felt that when I asked him for his okay, I had put him on the spot, and he couldn't find the courage to ask me to back off. Once everything was out in the open, we made plans to go out again, but then informed my friend that we had uncovered the deception. That was tough to do because I was thoroughly mad. I avoided the guy for the next month, ignoring phone calls, etc. He found out about it when I came to pick her up at work one night. Nobody said a word, just looked at us like we had crushed his soul. It had been her idea to do this, and I was gleefully happy with the idea of doing that until after I had actually done it. And then a really weird thing happened. Our relationship with this lady became all about getting revenge on my friend. Whenever there was a silent moment between us, she'd break it by reminding me of what a jerk he had been. A few weeks into it, she'd break the silence by telling me embarrassing stories about him. It seemed like the only thing we really had in common was that we were pissed at my friend. I broke it off after about 2 months. It would be several months until I patched things up with my friend. I ran into him at one of the local bars, and after a talk about pals before gals, it was all patched up. Imagine being so much of a loser that you lie to 2 people just so they don't get together. Story 4. My friend was dating a girl who I could tell just didn't like me, but at least we were civil to one another until the camping trip and the May 24 holiday weekend. She was adamant about keeping her booze separate, which is fine. I had my beer, they had their Mike's hard lemonades, which was also fine. Then I got up early in the first morning and made pancakes for everyone. Why? Because that's just how I roll. When the campers rolled out of their tents to the smell of apple cinnamon pancakes and campfire coffee, she was the only one to flip out. I went into her cooler and used her margarine. My buddy just looked pained and tried to keep the peace as I tossed her a toonie and apologized. Her reaction was to grab a lock from his gym bag and lock their tent with their booze and their food. Later, he came to me and asked if he could borrow the car so that they could run into town. I said okay and handed him the keys. When they returned hours later, the tank was empty. In the field kitchen, a wooden box with straps called a wanagon with plates, cutlery, pots, and pans, etc., was missing from the back of the station wagon. We searched the camp but found nothing. It was my dad's and had been handed down in the family for generations. I drove off to fill the tank and buy a new tub of margarine. I was halfway down the country road when I saw the wanagon on the side of the road, smashed in the ditch. There were marks along the back panels beside the flattened down seats where one of them had clearly pushed it out the back of the moving car. After piling it all, stunned, piece by piece, back into the wagon, I gassed up and drove back. Then packed up. Not a word said by anyone until I tore up the camping permit and peeled out with their shouts behind me in the dust. I never spoke to either one of them again. Story 5. I had a record deal with a major record label. One of my best friends was my manager. I ignored one phone call from him when I was taking a day off and wanted to be out of contact, which he knew. He decided that was the signal to call the label as the project was coming to a close and lied to them about how he had produced most of the record. He hadn't. He proceeded to help leak some of the instrumentals to another producer at the label, who stole them and released them with other artists. Months of working night and day on a project fully by myself, from instrumentals to vocals to mixing, went down the drain. And the final product ended up in so much legal red tape that I couldn't even release my own 100% self-created album for free, much less independently or on another label. My career rebounded, albeit mainly in the local, internet, and underground circuits. Whether that label could have propelled me into the spotlight or not, I'll never know. I haven't spoken to that friend in years. Every so often, he runs into my mother and tries to stage these accidental meetings with me. I couldn't be more cold each time we interact, and he still tries to act as if he doesn't know why. He thinks one day everything will just go back to normal if he waits long enough. No, you live in a huge house and make a ton of money off exploiting my work. I'm doing okay after busting my bum off. We will not be back to normal until you can promise me that album with that label backing it at that specific time in history wouldn't have made me a ton of money, because just parts of it sold to crappier artists obviously made you some. Oh man, that is rough. It's like these people forget what friendship even means. If you've had your fair share of betrayal, share them below. And don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons for more intriguing content like this one. Story 6. I had a friend for 20 years. He called me at night to ask me to borrow $3,600. It was for his last year of a degree and would get him a raise when he graduated. At the time, I was making quite a bit of money and had lots in the bank. He said he would pay me back in a year. 3 years later, he still had not paid me back and was constantly giving me lame excuses like he needs 3 vacations a year and is saving to buy a house. My situation had changed, and he was still not only refusing to pay me back, but still asking for favors and loans. I finally said I was broke, to which he replied, "You're stupid. I'm never going to pay you back or help you out." I dropped him as a friend and have had very little contact with him since. He did hire my wife at a company he manages. I guess I should have seen this coming. He just got married and had 2 kids. Another time he said, "Your kids aren't starving." He always just thought of himself. He did not care about anyone else. I guess I thought he was funny. I listened to his bar girl stories and finally, enough was enough. The last time I talked to him as a friend, he was asking me to get him some grass. I said I was way out of my way. I was too busy. He said, "Too much to ask for, eh?" I said, "Well, what would you do for me?" When you grow up with a guy, it just seems like it is too hard to recognize that he isn't really a friend. I kept this inside for a while. I don't have any friends from high school anymore because they were all like this. I should have hung out with a better class, really. Story 7. I had a friend whom I knew stole from me. He stole from pretty much all of his friends, but it was never anything valuable. Usually just change on the coffee table when you were on the bathroom or a roll of toilet paper or something. We all knew, and we all knew why. Anyone who was new to the circle was warned, had it explained, and everyone agreed never to make a fuss about it. Some of us would even leave out extra change when he'd come over. If he couldn't afford it, he made sure to put the change away. I am nearly 100% sure he knew we knew and knew we did it, and I know he knew why we knew why. His mom had a substance problem, and his dad had been gone for the picture for years. He took the change to buy food, toilet paper, or other little household things. He'd never take the money we offered him, and it upset him due to a warped sense of pride, and he couldn't move out due to health problems and a little sister that he took care of. So the group of us did what we could to help him. Even though he did those things to me, I wished him a happy ending, and he got it. He and his sister moved out once he finished undergrad, neck deep in loans, but likely paid off if that job held, and he got custody of her. She's probably graduated, and, I hope, got the teaching degree she always wanted by now. Story 8. In 11th grade, I met my first girlfriend. We were really great together, and even though I had to drive 45 minutes to meet her, I always looked forward to hanging out with her because she was awesome. About 4 months into the relationship, however, my best friend started talking to my girlfriend. I didn't see anything wrong with it because I trusted him and her. Big mistake. One night, my girlfriend sent me an IM. "How could you do this to me?" My heart sank immediately. I had no idea what she was talking about. I kept asking what I did, but she kept saying I was just playing dumb. I called her on the phone to talk to her. She said that my best friend had told her that I had been flirting with another girl at my school. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't convince her otherwise. She broke up with me. About a month later, I went into the town where she lived. Me and another friend were going to hang out with some mutual friends of my ex. We went to their house, and who was there but my best friend and my ex, with her sitting on my best friend's lap? Apparently, my best friend had asked her out a bit after she broke up with me, and she had said yes. She trusted him because he had outed me. To this day, this is the biggest betrayal I've ever felt. Should I do it again? These ain't loyal. Story 9. I was in what I later realized was a very bad relationship, but at the time, this dude was like a religion to me. I was crazy about him. My best friend at the time was sort of a mean girl, but I wasn't very good at making friends, so I'd put up with her being cruel to people. She would never do anything to hurt me, right? Anyway, that relationship started getting toxic, but I kept with it because, I was young and stupid. I convinced myself that if I tried a little harder, everything would just fix itself. It didn't, and after a few months, we broke up. Sometime later, I was at a party and my friend was a bit tipsy. She told me, laughing the entire time, how she and this guy were involved 2 weeks after we started dating. She detailed how they would be together while he was talking to me on the phone and then laughed about it. She went on to detail all the ways and places they used to sneak around with each other. And this was the girl I would cry to when my ex would mistreat me. She didn't seem to have any idea that what she was saying was messed up. She actually thought that I would think it was funny too. Story 10. I had one friend who would steal from my friends pretty regularly. One time I had a small social gathering, around 6 to 7 people, and my new smartphone went missing. The jerk helped me look for the phone in my house for over an hour. Later on, I saw my phone in his room on his desk. I just took it back. No words were exchanged. I stopped talking to him altogether after that incident. Later, he was at a mutual friend's party. Her 80-gigabyte iPod went missing. Me and some friends were suspicious that it was him, so the next day we called up the local pawn shop and described the iPod. The pawn shop guy said he got one that day. Sure enough, it was under the jerk's name. The pawn shop offered to call the cops, but we declined. We approached him and told him we knew. He tried to deny it, but we managed to shame him into admitting it. Screw people who steal from friends. So these stories definitely made us question who we can trust, right? Sometimes the deepest cuts come from the people closest to us. But hey, if you enjoy all the unexpected and the hurtful, there's more over on what's the crappiest way a friend has shown you they weren't really your friend. Seriously, I feel like these kinds of things keep on happening. Just listen to story 3. See you there.